Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Swerve with Vince Russo. Now, listen, before I get into my next guest, I got to give a little bit of a backstory because the fact of the matter is I'm a little scared. Yeah, I know I'm the tough New Yorker. I know I'm the one with the chip on my shoulder. I know I'm the one who likes to chew people up and spit them out, but this is a whole different ball of wax for me. And in order for you to understand, let me set the stage for you. A couple of months back, when we were first starting Pyro and Ballyhoo, and we were receiving all types of mail and emails and tweets and Facebook messages from all these people that wanted to be involved, with the website. And I was trying to go through as many of them as possible. If people want to work with me, I want to work with them. That's how I am. And all of a sudden, I get some text from this person known as Razorfist. And, Razorfist in a very humble, nice, polite way, goes on to tell me he's been a fan of mine, for a long period of time, even brought back Shotgun Saturday Night, which I don't even remember that was so far in the past. But, he's a big fan of mine. He'd like to be a part of the show. And he even sent me a YouTube link to watch. So, of course, the name Razorfist, right off the bat, I'm interested. I mean, what lunatic names himself Razorfist? But I'm thinking, all right, this is just a guy trying to make a name for himself in the business. So let me see what he brings to the table. So I go to the YouTube page and I click on, he's already got a channel there. So he's already established. So this guy's already doing his thing. I'm jumping on the gravy train late. So I go to the YouTube channel and I see this video by this guy, Razorfist. And let me tell you something. I know in the past I've been outspoken. I know sometimes when I really get outspoken, at that point in time, I gotta tap Vic Venom on the shoulder and let him take it from there. But this guy is Vince Russo, Vic Venom. You know that Bash at the Beach promo Vince Russo cut in 2000? That's like me reading a bedtime story to my kids compared to this guy. I've never met a human being, to be honest with you, who doesn't care what he says about what. And that's why before I bring him on, I gotta make one thing perfectly clear. Now, even myself at my older age, I draw a line these days of just how far I'll go or how far I won't go. This guy doesn't draw any lines. And, as an advocate of freedom of speech, I'm not going to tell Razorfist what he can say and what he can't say. I'm going to let him go on, but I have to say up top, do not hold me responsible for the ideas and the thoughts coming out of this lunatic's mouth. If you have any complaints, send all your cards and letters to Razorfist, not Vince Russo. I am giving this man a channel and a forum for him to get his thoughts and opinions across, but it's all him. This is the first time I'm meeting him. This is the first time I'm having a conversation with him. You are seeing history. And I want to add one other thing. As a little extra bonus to the members of Pyro and Ballyhoo, to the people that come on the website on a regular basis, not only are you going to hear this audio on the podcast, The Swerve, but you're also going to see the video. The VIP members get video every week. You're going to get this one as a special treat, and I'll tell you why. The voice ain't enough with this guy. You got to see him to believe him. He's got the whole gimmick going, and I'm sitting here and I'm saying to myself, the voice just doesn't do this guy justice. If we're going to bring Razorfist onto the show, we got to give him the whole show. So with that set up, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, this is Razorfist.
Godspeed, Vince. It's good to be on the show.
Okay,
as I've already mentioned to you, I'm a huge fan and have been since '99.
Okay, now listen. You get the picture now with this guy. You see the setting? Like, look, I got a setting behind me, but this is 53-year-old Vince. You could see the kitchen in the back. Look at the background with this guy. His forte, Razorfist has a lot of talents, but his fortes are really older. Is the word cheesy fair to use?
Oh, the dick cheese. Let's throw it's total cheese.
Tell them a little bit about the movies that you're into, the genre.
Well, let's see. If it wasn't made in the 80s and it doesn't star Charles Bronson, Sylvester Stallone, or Arnold Schwarzenegger, it didn't happen, as far as I'm concerned. What you gotta say is well in advance of a modern Hollywood action film where we, after every single gunfight, we have to pause and talk about our feelings for 25 minutes.
Ray, I'm glad that you brought that up, because a lot of people, movies back in the day, as a matter of fact, you'll appreciate this. I'm a huge Sylvester Stallone mark. The other day I was watching TV and Get Carter. I never saw Get Carter before. I'm sitting there an hour and a half watching Get Carter, and I'll tell you what, it's the greatest thing I ever saw. Now, there's some validity to the way you feel because let's face it, man, the report just came out of the Hollywood blockbusters this summer in 2014. The box office bombed. So what do you have to say about that, your expertise and your genre of film compared to what's out there today?
I can't even. Well, first off, I mean, speaking of Stallone, why do you think I'm wearing the aviator sunglasses? Cobra, 86. That's why, right there. You're the disease, I'm the cure.
I'm the cure. There we go.
There you go. I just have to broker the query. I mean, what in Michael Bay's Parkinson's-afflicted camera operator has happened to Hollywood films? You worked at a video store that must have been the 80s, right?
It was the 80s, and that's when we had classic after classic.
A decade when at any given moment you could stumble drunkenly in any given movie theater and be treated to at least something on the screen that made it worth squandering the remainder of your life savings purchasing a soda the size of a water heater. Like I was looking at a color-coded chart. There's this. You can look this up online. There's a color-coded chart of the top-grossing films of each of the last 4 respective decades, starting with the 1980s. Green for original stories, blue for literary adaptations, and red for remakes. The 80s looked like someone's bag of Skittles had exploded. Tons of variety. The 90s were blue. And it goes without saying, the current decade looked like brother love French kissing a baboon's ass. It was redder than Jim Cornette's politics. The 2000s are to cinematic originality what Abdullah the Butcher is to clean blood tests. I mean, wrap your thinker box around this one, if you will. 2 days ago, we learned that the Underworld franchise, is fixing to board the reboot bullet train bound for flagrant cash-in Canyon. Let me just remind you, the Underworld series started in 2003. If this series were a human being, it wouldn't have hair on its nuts, and we're already shoving it back in the birth canal. It's like giving a tummy tuck to a 5-year-old. Or actually, strike that. I'm probably giving the Kardashians ideas.
Well, you know what, Razor? I got to interrupt you there because, bro, listen, I'm friend on this one. I 100% agree with you. You said Cobra, Get Carter, Tango and Cash. The Bronson. Bro, I got to tell you, when I saw Death Wish 3, I was afraid to leave the movie theater because I thought I was going to get gunned down by machine gun style the minute I went outside. Razor, let me ask you this. I mean, at that time, that was looked at as cheesy and bad cinema. But, we look at it today and we cherish it and we remember it and we want it back. What happened? What do you think happened to the Hollywood industry?
I have no idea. How ironic is it that people who take the piss out of filmic flops like RoboCop 2014 are criticized by gibbering retards, might I add, for hating it just because it's new? Listen, Chuckles, I don't hate Total Recall 2013 because it's new. I hate it because it's not new. I don't want another RoboCop. I want to see the next RoboCop, right?
Absolutely.
Go ahead. Ask a room full of Hollywood moguls to generate an original idea in 2014. They don't make stares that blank on test dummies. I guarantee you. And another thing, the other thing I noticed in modern action movies, like as much of an aesthetic appreciation as I derive from the female breast, can we go ahead and stop giving work to people like Megan Fox and Scarlett Johansson? Not that I wouldn't bang Megan Fox, but I mean, at a certain point, you'd have to do it just for the diary entry. I've never slept with a cautionary tale before, but when it comes right down to it, they can't act or think or speak. They're props.
Well, and now listen, Razorfist. Yeah, again, I'm friend. We're on the same page, but I gotta ask the question: do we really need Megan Fox to speak?
Well, that's the thing. They're props with speaking lines. That's just it. And they're shoehorned into these improbably.
I mean, don't tell me you're looking for Bridget Nielsen to make a comeback too. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, I don't know. You'd have to dig her up just to dig up what was left of Sly Stallone's career from the '80s, really. But I don't know. You could bring back Brigitte Nielsen. She could probably act more effectively, but I don't know. They wind up shoehorning these women into these improbably overhyped widescreen CGI explosion fest for one reason and one reason alone. What are they doing? They're foisting mild sex appeal on an audience that is predominantly underage. Because who's going to go see a comic book movie? I mean, I go, and I'm not underage, but still. I mean, really, Hollywood? You're selling mild PG-13 sex appeal in the age of the internet? The same internet where I'm perpetually a mouse click away from enough porn to make my genitals more crooked than WWE's business model?
He said that, I didn't. Now, listen, you bring up CGI there, Razorfist. Are you telling me that with all now, come on, let's face it, there's been some good superhero movies. I mean, I was a fan, I got to admit it. I thought the Iron Man series was good. I thought the Avengers was done well. Are you telling me that you don't even enjoy CGI at all?
Oh, hey, look, I didn't say that. I don't like bad CGI. If you want to know the difference between good CGI and bad CGI, watch The Avengers first for the good CGI. Then watch Daredevil 2003. Sustained.
Would you now what I'm gonna randomly throw a movie out there at you. Because listen, I've said many times, you in my opinion, you're a genius. But, I've got to throw some things at you here and there to test you. I'm going to throw out one of my all-time favorites because I want to hear your opinion of this film. What happened to the Toxic Avenger series?
They are rebooting it.
Oh, now, are you for that or are you against that?
I have met, is his name Lloyd Kaufman? I've met him a couple times. He used to bring in I used to work at a comic shop. And he used to bring his movies into the store all the time. I don't know. Those movies have an indelible charm that you cannot replicate. And you certainly can't replicate it with a room full of nerds pounding out CGI Toxic Avengers. I don't know. It could work if it's done well, but you almost have to do it on a shoestring budget. You almost have to do it with claymation and all the crappy special effects from the 80s, or else it won't work. It won't be the Toxic Avenger anymore. Like, if they turn it into a grim, dark, we're going to listen to French horn for 35 minutes and have an existential treatise on the meaning of life, Chris Nolan Batman type thing, and that ain't going to work. That's not going to work at all. It's the Toxic friggin' Avenger.
What about if they bring in Scarlett Johansson to play the Toxic Avenger? Does that work for you?
As long as she doesn't speak. Once again, as long as the mouth does not open, at least not for speaking.
Razor, while we're talking about entertainment, I got to talk to you. I want to take the bridge over to television. I'm a big TV guy, and I hate to admit it, but, I kind of am entertained by the, by reality television and that whole genre. It kind of entertains me a little bit. But, I got to ask you this. What do you think about, and what's the appeal with this Kardashian family?
I heard, I mean, television ain't much better off. I mean, I heard you launch into one hell of a harangue on the subject of the Kardashians, it was a couple weeks ago. But never mind being sick of their Kardashians. I wouldn't have wanted to follow the royal family this freaking closely. National Geographic film crews don't document the social patterns of Galapagos turtles in this kind of exhaustive detail. Maybe if everyone permitted themselves to periodically turn their bloodshot gaze from the unremitting parade of painstakingly scripted facsimiles of real-life families, who knows, maybe 1 in 2 actual American families wouldn't end in a divorce, who knows. But as easy as it would be to blame the voyeuristic public for watching these clowns, I think the reality TV craze is one case where, where entertainment executives have more than earned their fair share of the blame. Because you really just have to think about it. Imagine for a moment you're a TV executive. If you find that difficult, try doubling over and inserting your own skull into your own butt to simulate the sensation. You set, right? Let's say you've just canceled the reality program of the microsecond, and now you need a fresh new television show. Your options are as follows. You can hire a proper team of writers, a proper production crew, a proper acting ensemble to generate a proper primetime drama or formulaic sitcom. And if everything goes right, you get to pay them all a proper union wage to pull in half the ratings they would have prior to the advent of the internet. Or you can put out a casting call for an aberrant conglomeration of anomalous humanity whose lack of discernible talent is matched only by their complete absence of shame. You can chuck them into a house with a half dozen other chicklet-brained homunculi, have them strip balls naked every third episode, and pay them all in table scraps and the nebulous promise of television fame for 1/17th the price and 10 times the ratings. Like, gosh, what a quandary. I wonder why there's 1.5 billion of these things on television.
Listen, I got to stop you right there because, do you see what I'm talking about with this guy? Next time, first of all, next time I have you on the show, I have to get myself a dictionary because I think I understand maybe 1 out of every 3 words that you say. But now, Razor, I know your forte is music, especially heavy metal. I mean, look at you. Now, listen, I'm not the big heavy metal guy. Like, I'm kind of in the wimpy heavy metal. I'm the AC/DC guy. I'm the Kiss guy. But now, listen, man, we've been talking a lot about, you heard my rant about Kim Kardashian. Hey, listen, I've been following Kiss since I'm 16 years old. That's a long time, but what's been going on with these guys lately? The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the diss to Peter and Ace, the Paul Stanley who can't sing anymore, the Gene Simmons and his comments about depression. Where do you sit with the world of Kiss of late?
Man, on the off chance that they're going to watch this, I'd just like to, let's throw out a little public service message. Paul Stanley, buddy, it is officially time to say when with the plastic surgery, pal. I mean, have you seen your eyebrows? How is it possible that Paul Stanley looks more like a mime with the makeup off? What kind of industrial-grade battery acid was dumped over that dome? I feel like I'm rewatching that movie Mask. Not the one from 95. You know the one I'm talking about. And Paul and Gene have both had enough Botox between the two of them to drop a rhino. Pal, when your face is so frozen stiff by fat injections culled from your unholy haunches that the act of opening that greed dispenser you call a mouth hole requires you to break out the yarn and rig up a pulley system, it is officially time to say when, Gene. And actually, you mentioned this on your podcast. Gene, buddy, let's rap about the hair, shall we? What in the hell is that thing? Are you the princess of the Shi'ar Empire? Is that a Darth Vader helmet? Nothing you can blame the guy. It's not like he hasn't gotten laid with that hair. I mean, even with hair that doubles as the logo for Motorola, Gene Simmons gets more tang than a thirsty astronaut.
Bro, what's with that? Bro, what's with that hair?
I have no idea. But, when you get that much tail, I wouldn't be in a hurry to alter my physical appearance.
Yeah, but I mean, you would think at some point in time that the lovely and the beautiful Shannon Tweed, she's got to clue the guy in at some point, no?
I know. Well, yeah, but you know what? I think Jerry Seinfeld said it's a core rule of biology that the last time a man scores a decent amount of tail is the precise moment in time that his fashion sense flash freezes at. Like, why do you think 70-year-old Crypt Keeper looking dudes are still wearing their pants just below their armpits? Because the last time he got some strange, those puppies were tucked under a zoot suit. That's why.
Hey, Ray, I got to ask you this, though, because I was kind of shocked myself. Now, listen, as the years go on and I get older and older and I read the different autobiographies, they all put out their books. I got to tell you, I kind of became older with age, and Ace and a Peter guy. And, bro, I got to tell you, good for Ace Frehley. Just came out with a new CD. He actually cracked the top 10. What do you think about that?
Yeah, and enough with the books. I mean, look, if you need to call Ace Frehley a wiener, try shooting him an email like a normal person. At least when junior high school kids pass derogatory notes back and forth in class, they have the decency not to charge $25 for the damn thing at Barnes & Noble. And, and exactly how many these things do we need exactly? Gene Simmons alone has penned at least a half dozen great American novels. I think one for every STD, I think, is the rule.
Okay, no, okay, you said that, I did. Now, Razor, listen. People too. Listen, this guy does it all. This is what I'm trying to tell you. We've already talked about the movies. He brought up the movie Cobra. You know, you're the disease, I'm the cure. The first 60 seconds of the interview. Then he did the segue into CGI. Then he talked about television. Then he talked about Kiss. But you don't understand. This guy is a wrestling aficionado. This guy knows wrestling. And listen, I'm going to throw one name at you, but before I do, you know, again, these are his thoughts, views, opinions, not mine. Razor, when I throw the name Vince McMahon out to you, what comes to mind?
I remember watching The Shoot from You several years back, and I'm not going to throw your words out there to try and put words in your mouth, but I think you argued, and I believe aptly, that if you give Vince McMahon a completed wrestling card, there's no one better at filling in the gaps with detailed nuances, right? But what Vince can't do is turn a blank sheet of paper into a wrestling product, right? And I actually disagree. The problem is that he turns that blank sheet of paper into a product that's about as compelling as a blank sheet of paper. That's the like, oh, hey, look, it's Jack Wilson versus David Stanson in a battle of the black wrestling tights. I sure hope both of them come down to the ring to dated late 90s radio rock entrance music. If you bottled all the personality in that ring, you wouldn't have a bottle. All right? Of course, you heard Cornette tell it. Vince McMahon wrote every show.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait, let me just stop you right there. Again, he brought up a name I never bring up. I'm not opening up that Pandora's box. Freedom of speech. I'm not going to tell my guests what to say. But remember, before he goes on with this, these are the opinions of one Razorfist and not Vince Russo. Go ahead, Razor.
I was just mentioning offhandedly to hear Cornette tell it, Vince McMahon wrote every show and only let you and Ed Ferrara out of your kitty crates to add punctuation marks at the end of his sentences. As you've said yourself, and I'm about to echo in kind, Vince McMahon is a genius. He revolutionized the business. WWE turned pro wrestling from a sideshow carnival attraction into semi-legitimate wing of traditional entertainment media. Mind you, I have to stifle aberrant guffaws of laughter using the words WWE and traditional entertainment media in the same sentence, given that WWE Films makes the Canon Group look like a Hollywood brain trust. Have you ever watched any of these things, Vince?
No, that I have not. Are you telling me John Cena or The Miz aren't Sylvester Stallone?
They're beyond straight to DVD at this point. They're like thought to DVD. I'm reasonably certain if Vince McMahon could get away with it, he would just ship copies of the movie's script in a DVD case. Like the Marine 3 looked like it was filmed with an iPhone camera. I've seen snuff films with a higher budget. And the only thing more rigid than the Miz's acting is Vince McMahon watching him wrestle. Kidding.
Hey, you know, Razor, I got to ask you this, bro, because, you know, every Monday night, I try not to do this because, listen, I'm on the outside looking in right now. I'm doing my own thing with Pyro and Ballyhoo, you know, and, you know, I got to be careful because when I'm negative about today's wrestling business, you know, then, you know, my critics are, you know, you're bitter, you're this, you're that. No, I'm not bitter. I watch 3 hours every Monday night and it sucks. It's got nothing to do with being bitter. It's horrible. The show sucks. I got to ask you two questions, Razor, a genius of your stature. Number one, can the wrestling business be saved? And number two, what's the first thing you would do if you were in charge?
You know what? I'm not even going to pretend that I'm qualified to answer that question. But I tell you what, your first step would be to knock that third hour off. Because the problem was fundamentally, let's be real, you probably caught the odd episode. I doubt you were watching every week, but you probably caught the odd episode of Raw before they jumped to 3 hours. It wasn't like they were setting the world on fire with their ratings and Raw creative acumen prior to adding the third hour. They've basically taken, and they only had an atom of butter to spread on the toast to begin with. Now they've got a huge piece of toast and they've got even less butter. It's just not working.
Now, could Scarlett Johansson help Raw?
Yes, absolutely. You know, probably more of a convincing actor than AJ. That's just my opinion. But
Now, Razor, any last thoughts before we wrap up what I think was a very successful first session of Razorfist on the Swerve?
no, you know what? I'm actually good. This was absolutely fantastic. It's been an absolute honor. First off, I have to say that. Like, it's been an honor because, as I said, I've been a huge fan of yours for years. It was nice to say the word wiener in your presence.
Well, Razor, listen, I want to say this, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I'm a huge fan of yours. Now, hopefully, a lot more people will get to see you if they want to follow you. If they want to further hear the wisdom of the Razorfist. Now, I'm not saying, listen, let me get this out in the open. I'm not saying that no 5-year-old children should copy the style of Razorfist or look like the person you see on the screen. I mean, I'm not saying that in any way, shape, or form. But if people do now want to follow you and get your words of wisdom, where can they find you?
I have my own commune, actually, and they can join. No, I'm on Twitter. The handle is Razorfist, one word, but with a 0 instead of an O. So very, very, very simple to remember. And I have a channel on YouTube, The Rageaholic, very easy to find. Click The Rageaholic into the search field. You'll find it immediately. It's also linked on my Twitter. And, of course, there's my main website. All of this is linked from my Twitter, so you're gold if you can find my Twitter.
Now, can you just explain to me what the excellence of elocution means in your own words?
Well, elocution is the ability to speak fluidly. It's, I get all my $10 words from Ed Ferrara, and I spew them back at you, and that's what we're doing. That's all it is. It's elocution. You have to be the excellence of elocution. Plus, I've been told I look like Bret Hart, so what are you gonna
Well, if anybody has elocution, it's you, Razor. And listen, if it's okay with you, I'd like to do this as an ongoing thing because I know me personally, I can't get enough of you. I know the people who follow the website and who listen to the Swerve. Once they see this, I know they're going to be addicted. I want you to be, I want you look at me as like David Letterman, and you're going to be my Chris Elliott. That may be a little before your time. You're a lot younger than me, but the guy who comes on occasionally, makes the appearances, puts a smile on everybody's face.
Right. No, it works as long as I'm not Ed McMahon.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely, you don't have that. You don't have that drinking problem that he did. But, ladies and gentlemen, this is the great Razorfist. Razor, we thank you very much, and we will be back with the Swerve right after this.